All right, good morning, everybody. This is another example related to arrays. And this example, we show you how we have like an empty array. We can add to this array. We can display the array, what the content of the array, and then we can do some searching, okay, a basic search in the array. So the way it works, I'm going to show you how the program works, and then I'll show you how to do it. We have a program that allows you to add up to five students. When you click on add, we can have a message. So I added one. Now I'm going to add another one, and add one, another one. So this is 4. This is 5. And then now if I add and try to add more, it says the array is full. Okay, the list is full. So the program works. You can add up to 5 students. You can display the students in the list, and then you can do search. For example, if you search for A, and then you do search, you get 1. If you do 1, you get that one. All right, and so forth. Now, if you can't find it, so if I say this, and then the program says that no records found. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So first, we define the array. Second, we will program the add button. Then we do the list. That's an easy one. And then after that, we will do the search. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. Now, I have the code. I'm going to delete everything and start from scratch. Okay. All right, this is that list. And this is the search. Okay, and this is the array. All right, the first thing we need to do is that we need to define, unlike the other previous examples where you have an array with some values, we want to create an array because we're doing strings, we're adding names, so the array type need to be string. Okay, and I'm going to call it names. And it is a new array, string, and then we said we can store up to 5 students. Okay, that's one. The other thing that we need is that we need to know when we have, I'm going to pause this for a minute. All right, because we need to keep track of how many record so far we have in the list. We need to define what we call a variable, and this variable is, I'm going to call it current record, and it's integer because it reflects an index of the array. Okay, so say int current record rec, and then I'm going to make it equal to 0 to start with. All right, what does this is important. What this does basically is that it tells me how many I have added already. All right, every time I add 1 to the list, I'll increase this. So start with 0, you add it. Now we have the next record that we add, it'll be 1. The next one that will add, it'll have 2, and so forth. So what I'm going to do here, we need to program the add button. All right, to do the add, it's pretty basics. What you say this string. We say names. Okay, now the index that we're going to use is the current record. Okay, current rec. Why? Because we started with 0. So this is the one that's going to tell me how much I have in the database, and I'm going to say equal to txt name. Not the database, the array txt name dot text. Okay, so this will give me the record and add it to the database. This give me the value, and I put it in the array. Now the next time I want to add, I basically increase the current record. So my current record now is 1. I filled the first one. The next time I add, it'll be 1. All right, but there will be a problem if we just leave it as this. So if we run it, so I'm gonna show you. If we do just this, add 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4. Now this is 5. Now watch what's gonna happen. Your program blows up Why? Because your current record is 5, but the index of the array goes from 0 to 4. So I'm exceeding the maximum size of the array. So what we have to do, we have to have a check, make sure that we don't exceed the size of the array. So what do we do here? You say if we only allow to add it if the current rec is less than, if we do this, I hate this part. If current record is less than the length of the array, which is names dot length. Okay, so I only do this part if I have more room in the list. Else, we will do a message box saying the array is full. Message box dot show. Then we say no more room. The list is full. If I can type this. All right. Now we're at least guarded against errors. Okay, so now if I try it again, if we do this, and 3, 4, 5, the list is full and your program does not look. Now the next part is how we display the array. All right, so how do we do this? Go back to the list display box, and then this is pretty easy. You say int, we've done this before in the previous video, so we say int I equals 0. Okay, now for I equals 0, I less than something. Okay, I'm going to put that something in a minute here. And then I plus plus. And then what do you do in here? In your array, you say list box. In your loop, list box. And lst result dot items dot add. And then you put the array value, which is names, and the index is I. Okay, this is what we used to do. Now the only thing that it's going to be different here. In the past, we used to put the whole array length. So if I say here the list of the array, we used to say names dot length. But what does that do? Remember, you could be adding only 2 or 3. You can't, I mean, it doesn't mean that you have 5 students. The maximum is 5, but you could have, for example, only 2. So if I do this, if I only added 2, and if I do display list, your program will actually bomb out, because it says, wait a minute, you have some value, names. If you look at the array here, names, the first 2 elements are AA, but the remaining are still null, and then you're trying to add null to an empty list. So you need to make sure you don't add these nulls. Now, why do you get nulls? Because you're defining an array of strings. When you're defining an array of strings, the default values are null. You haven't added anything to it. In integers, it'll be 0, so that's fine. But with the strings, it is null. So what do you have to do? Well, we can't display everything in the we can't display all the elements in the array. We only can display the one that we've added. And how we do this? We put I is less than. Remember, we have something that tells me what is the current record. So as long as I am under the current record, it'll be fine. So now if you do this, add display list, your program works. If you add another one, add display list, it works. We need to clear the list first. Okay, so here we need to say lst result dot items dot clear. Okay, that will clear the list. All right, so that's how it works. All right, now add display 3. Okay, add one more message. So for example, BB. Now it works. All right, the last part is that how do we add, how we do the search. In the search, it's the same thing as the previous example with one exception. So I'm going to copy this, do control copy, and then do V. Here, control V. The only difference is that we need to compare what I enter in the text field here matches what's in the array before I list it. So I have to have an if statement here. It says if txt name dot text. Now if you don't care about upper or lower, you can say to lower. Okay, that would change it to a lowercase. If it's equal to the value that's stored in the array, which is names dot, again names here, which index we use I, again to lower, so both of them are to lower. So if any of them is, if any of the letter is uppercase, it's converted to lower. So when both are lower, you can compare them easily. Okay, if it is true, then we add it to the array, okay, to the list box. All right, that is fine. It only displays it if it finds it. So if I say here, add, and I put bb add, and if I do display list, fine. If I do search, it finds it. But if I don't find anything, the list is empty. So how do we tell the user the record is not found in the database, in the list? So what you do, there is another type of variable we can use here. We say Boolean, and then we define a found flag, and we make it equal to false. So we start with a false, all right? And this flag can either be true or false. Now we start with false, and we go through the list. And if we don't find anything, it still remains false. But if it finds something, we need to make it equal to true. So we say found equal to true. All right. Now, when you exit the for loop, here's your for loop. When you exit the for loop, now, if you didn't find anything, found continue to be false. But if you actually found it, found becomes true. So all you have to do in the outside the box is say if found equal false. That means it stays false. That means I didn't find the record. All you say, you put a message box saying, you're saying here, I already have a message box above here. Control copy, and then you just put it in here and saying record not found. Control V, and then say record not found. No record found. You got the idea? That's how it works. All right, now it should work. If you type in and then you put, you're looking for this record, search not found. But if you put back this here, search, now it found all the ones. All right, to summarize what we've done, because we allow the user to enter variable values, we define an array with the maximum allowed entries. We define an integer. This is what we call it, kind of like keep track of how many we've added so far. When we add, we check if I still have more room in the list, and we do it by comparing the current index, this record, that integer that we found, to the length of the array. If it is less than the length of the array, we allow the addition. Otherwise, we say it's full. When the search, I mean in the list, it's the list, you go through the list. The only difference between this and the previous example, now we only go to the point where we added, because we're adding them sequentially. All right. Now this doesn't do delete and all of that. This is basic arrays example. All right. And then the last part is that when you do search, similar to the list, the only part that is different, you compare first. When you compare, if it is matching, you add it to the list box, and then you go through the loop. And then when you exit the loop, we have this variable called found. This found, the purpose of this variable only tells me if I found a match or not. When we find a match, it becomes true. Otherwise, it remains false. So when we exit the loop, stays false. Now, if it's false, we say record not found. All right, this is one example. Shows you how we do searching in an array, basic search in an array. All right, I'll do another example where we have two arrays, and then how we match the two arrays together. All right, we're done with this example.